Godzilla and Kong finally meet, and they don't like each other. Yep, that's the plot. So if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you know that I've had a pretty mixed reaction to these movies. I really like the first Godzilla movie from 2014. I think that movie is highly underrated. I wasn't so big on Kong Skull Island. That movie was kind of a letdown, and I really didn't like Godzilla King of the Monsters. So initially, I wasn't excited for this movie purely for that reason. But then the trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong came out, and it made me realize that a giant gorilla punching a giant lizard in the face is just something I need in life, you know? And I'm happy to say that this movie actually delivers on that premise. Godzilla vs. Kong for me is the best movie in the Godzilla and Kong monsterverse since the first Godzilla movie, and I think a lot of that is thanks to the film's pacing. This is a very fast-paced movie, so much so that it's literally the shortest movie in this franchise, and believe me when I tell you, this movie wastes no time on things that you might not necessarily care about when you go to see a movie like this. Instead, the grandest objective this movie really has is entertaining the shit out of you, predominantly with a series of battles between Godzilla and Kong. That's probably the biggest praise I can really give this movie, and I know that sounds like an insult, but compared to the last two movies in this franchise, for me, this movie succeeded where those two movies frankly didn't, particularly King of the Monsters, which I still think is the worst in the series. That movie was long, boring, and riddled with stupid shit, most of which came from the egregious human characters, which is something that this franchise has been criticized for since the very beginning. Luckily, this movie significantly tones down the focus on the human characters. The filmmakers clearly knew the human element of these films was something that every film before Godzilla vs. Kong was criticized for, so in that way, Godzilla vs. Kong comes across as self-aware because the human characters feel intentionally underdeveloped. The one human character they absolutely nailed was this little girl that has a connection of sorts to Kong. The relationship that this character has with Kong was definitely one of the strongest elements of this film, and it led to some truly awe-inspiring moments and sequences between these two that were surprisingly pretty heartfelt. Their relationship is absolutely the heart and soul of this movie. Other than the kid though, all the humans are given just enough characterization to somewhat care about them. The movie establishes what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. Some are overly serious, some are pretty comedic, and some are paranoid. Brian Tyree Henry, for instance, was really funny as a conspiracy theorist who runs a podcast and has a lot of thoughts about what this corporation are doing, and some of those things end up being true. So watching him discover that he was right was actually pretty funny. He is joined by Julian Dennison and Millie Bobby Brown on this side quest of sorts, and whenever the movie cuts to these three, it does feel like the movie just comes to a grinding halt because frankly what these characters are doing just isn't that interesting compared to what else is going on in the movie. But on the bright side, this trio are pretty fun together, and they do the best with what they have to work with, which really isn't much, and they do just manage to save their scenes. That and their side quest does result in a pretty cool reveal, so there's that. Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård and Rebecca Hall is where the movie is really at, and even then, they're really just there to progress the plot. The movie gives you just enough of the human characters. They ain't that interesting, and a lot of the things they do are incomprehensible at best, but the movie knows it, and thankfully, none of them overstay their welcome. A lot more focus is given to the Titans, and this movie is all the better for it. Who'd have thought that a movie about giant monsters that was actually about the giant monsters would actually work? I mean, it's not like it took them 3 fecking attempts to realize this, is it? No. But in all seriousness, the battle sequences between the film's title characters are a lot of fun. I would argue that it's the best action in the series thus far. The Titans move a lot quicker than they have in previous entries, so the fights feel a lot more frenetic and exhilarating. They also really take advantage of each Titan's various strengths and weaknesses, and I really loved how those were integrated and utilized within the fight scenes. The fights also look gorgeous. These creatures look fantastic, and there's rarely a time where it doesn't feel like you're looking at a real, living, breathing Titan. The visuals are just absolutely breathtaking, and the cinematography looks beautiful. And I really have to give praise to director Adam Wingard, because a lot of the fight scenes take place in broad daylight. A lot of sequences that involve heavy amounts of CGI often take place during nighttime, because filmmakers can use the cover of dark darkness brought to you by nighttime to either create atmosphere or hide any CGI that might not look too good if the scene were to take place in the daytime. King of the Monsters and even Godzilla 2014 did this quite a lot. In Godzilla vs. Kong, most of the action takes place during daytime, so the effects are often on full display, so it never feels like anything is being hidden from you. And even in the sequences that take place during nighttime, of which there are a few, this movie's use of vibrant colors makes those sequences so beautiful to look at, and it really adds to the visual appeal. Alexander Skarsgård and Rebecca Hall might as well be the main characters if we're talking about the human characters specifically, because they're trying to find this hidden world, and so a lot of the narrative is centered on that journey, but the central character was Kong. This is a really smart decision because Kong is actually integral to this story. He is leading the human characters to this place, so they need Kong for this story to work. He's not just the animal that occasionally appears to wreak havoc and then disappears for half the movie. I mean, his need for friendship and family in this film kinda gives him an arc of his own, which is awesome. Now we not only get to see more of the Titans, but they're actually integral to the narrative. Having said that, if you go into this movie expecting anything more than exactly what the trailers for this film promised, you're gonna be disappointed. It has the bare minimum character development, a fairly simple and straightforward plot that's fairly easy to understand, loads of effects, and huge fights. This movie knows exactly what it is. It's a big, fun movie with no aspirations of being anything more than that. You know, like an overly exaggerated, pretentious, and hollow human drama, for example. This movie knows what it is, and it is totally fine being just that. A big roller coaster of effects-driven action that can keep you entertained for just under a couple of hours. This movie is not going to be for everyone. Not everyone is going to like this movie, especially if you're going in expecting something that is particularly deep, with hidden meanings and messages, or a deep dive into the human psyche. Of course you're not going to get that! I'm not even going to sit here and pretend I think this movie is particularly fantastic, cause I don't. Is it disposable? Honestly, yeah, kinda. But is it entertaining as hell? Oh hell yeah it is. Godzilla vs. Kong gets a 7.5 out of 10. So that was my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much as always for watching. But before I go, I would just like to ask you guys, what did you think of Godzilla vs. Kong? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. Until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you. Always.